We were heading out for a vacation and had this tire blow out on the highway. Luckily I had a spare and replaced it on the side of the road without getting killed by people that don't move over. On the left is the damage in the wheel well, and on the right is after I did some work on it. Sorry, but I wasn't going to film this at first, so no video in doing this part. I just took my razor knife and Dremel tool and cut out the bad wood paneling and as little styrofoam as I had to so I could make a foam block to fit in there. After measuring the opening where the styrofoam was, I made a form out of wood about the same size as the opening and clamped that down to a piece of paneling. In between the form and paneling, I put some thin pieces of cardboard paper down so the foam wouldn't stick to the paneling. I then took a can of spray foam and sprayed it inside the form. The form is about 1.5 inches thick and I filled it up about halfway. Once that dried overnight, I used a saw and cut off the top and then cut down the sides to free it from the form. It turned out better than I hoped, so I was happy with all that. I then put adhesive caulk on the side without the cardboard paper on it. On the left is where I stuck it in the opening that I cut in the wheel well, and on the right you can see where I put some spray foam to fill in the gaps. Here is another angle showing the new foam piece in place and one of the 2 spare tires I bought while on vacation. After that dried, I used my Dremel tool to trim off the dripping spray foam to clean this up. I then cut a piece of paneling to the size I needed, and that just happened to be the same thickness as the existing paneling. I put adhesive caulk on that and stuck that in place so I could cover the foam I just put in. This is when I decided to start recording this in case it may be of use to some of you. Nothing special here. I just put it in place and then used some wood against my tire to hold it while it dried a little. I needed an extra brace, and all I had was an extension wand from a vacuum that was close to me, but it worked. I then moved on to making a piece of metal that would cover all this up because I don't know what else I could have done. It worked out that I could buy a piece of sheet metal from a big box store that is used to make HVAC air ducts in houses. I cut it down so it would fit using a pair of tin snips. I folded this one end down to make it more rigid because of where it is going in the wheel well. You'll see that later. This might be hard to understand, but this is under my slide out, and I need to take a few screws out to get the piece of metal in there. This piece of plastic will then help hold the metal in place. I start fitting the piece in place so I can get it screwed down. I forgot to record this, but I have a bolt where that arrow is that holds the trailer floor to the metal support. Before doing this step, I just sat the piece over that bolt and hit it with a hammer to leave a mark. Then I drilled it out using a bit the size of that bolt. I measured and put marks on the sheet metal to evenly space the screws. On this spot next to that support, I used self-tapping screws because the metal was thicker than the sheet metal. I used my metal bender to just push the sheet metal up into that seam and then put the last screw in that piece. I then just went down the piece, putting the rest of the screws into the existing wood paneling that you saw on the bottom of the styrofoam. This is that piece of molding under my slide out that we took the screws out of earlier. Next, we're going to screw this back down to hold this piece of metal in place. I am adding a couple extra screws to be on the safe side. Okay, I got all this wiped off with a wet rag. I'm going to apply a bead of caulk on this edge. Not worried about the color because I'm going to spray it. I just want to seal up this edge. I'm going to spray it with some undercoating. Some black undercoating, so I'm not even worried about making this real smooth or anything like that. It's just to try to seal it up if I even need to seal it up. So. Looks really bad, but once I get the undercoating spray on here, I think you're not going to see it anyway, so I just want to seal up any chance of water coming in from the tires. I don't even know what this stuff that's on here now is, like plastic, some kind of woven plastic. I don't know how it can be waterproof. I didn't really try to find any of that material. It's almost like a landscape fabric. Is what it kind of feels like. But I don't know why it can't be. I mean, to me it has to be waterproof because there was wood underneath. There's wood right underneath this fabric. So to me it's got to be, otherwise that wood would be all rotten, correct? Or it airs out and just dries, I don't know. I didn't really go to any trailer store to try to find out. And I didn't want to go there to have them do this because I probably would have cost an arm and a leg to have it done. But I don't know, maybe it should have been done by a professional, but I really couldn't find many YouTube videos on how to do this. That's why I figured I would just post my own in case somebody has this same problem. This looks really bad, but once I get it sprayed, I think it's gonna look okay. I don't think it'll be a big deal at that point. I'll put a little more on this edge here, kind of make it a little rounded. It's not too bad. Alright, I'll let that dry and then spray it. Here are two pictures, one looking to the back and one to the front. It didn't turn out too bad once I painted it. This doesn't have anything to do with this video, but I took off this piece of trim so it wasn't in my way and just need to put it back on. This was another tire I found after we got to the campground. Luckily it didn't blow, but you can tell it was close. The tire looks way overinflated and wires coming out the side. Thanks for watching. Till next time.